As our planet continues to warm, we are seeing more intense floods, wildfires, heat waves. In the worst of circumstances, they can result in the loss of life, as we saw in Wolfville just a few days ago. And the infrastructure damage can be stunning. They're affecting many people's mental health, too. Psychologists are sounding the alarm now over increased stress, anxiety, and even PTSD because of climate disasters. Janine Hubbard is a registered psychologist in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Welcome to Main Street.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
As you know, we did have a death here very recently and last summer as well, all caused by flash flooding brought on by extreme changes in weather patterns. So the results, the trauma can be a result of what we're seeing here. How else can just experiencing climate disasters affect our mental health?
Oh, I mean, it can impact on many levels because those of us here in Atlantic Canada, we've had the forest fires, we've had the storms, we've had the power failures. I mean, I think we've gotten familiar with a lot of them. And one of the biggest things is because they come out of nowhere, they're powerful, they make us feel really helpless, and they can present an immediate fear for our personal safety or the safety of others. That is the perfect storm to create a number of mental health challenges in terms of anxiety for our immediate safety, anxiety for loved ones, but also just more in general. Even if we're not directly impacted, looking and thinking, oh my goodness, that could happen to me, or what's going to happen with our future. And really, there's kind of three stages of coping. It's the immediate, I'm just dealing with an actual storm. There's the recovery process. And then where we really see a lot of the mental health struggles is kind of 6 weeks out, when you really start to see the more lasting reactions and challenges and maladaptive coping. The other thing that can happen is, you're quite right, there are trauma triggers. Sometimes just hearing heavy winds or, rain hitting the window, or when you start to smell smoke or see ash, even if it's from a campfire, those can absolutely trigger reminders of past events.
Right. You mentioned a moment ago that some of the effects kick in 6 weeks later. What is it about that time frame, and what happens to someone's psyche after that period?
Well, it's as much that we expect some initial coping. We expect your sleep to be disrupted, your self-care routines to be disrupted, either because you're focusing on whether it's clearing your land or, coping without power or having been displaced and living in another community. Whatever those are, your focus at the time is much more just on those immediate needs. And then you initially get that lovely community coming together, neighbors helping neighbors, feeling really supported. And at that point, most people resume their normal lives. And it's you're still really struggling. You're feeling tearful. You're having trouble resuming your normal activities. At around that 6 week mark is where we start to go, okay, maybe it's time to speak with a professional, because these are lingering on. You're not resuming your regular life in the way that you're seeing, your friends and neighbors able to do. What
will a professional typically suggest you do to deal with it?
A lot of it is working on your relative coping things. So a lot of us, when we're under stress, we go to our go-tos. You eat the junk food, you perhaps increase your substance and alcohol use, you're not exercising, you're either not sleeping or you're sleeping more. So some of it is working on those routines. Some of it is the cognitive restructuring. Even if it can be, and if you've got kids, this is great, it's the, hey, we're going to have a camp out in the living room under the tent because we have no power. Or we're going to turn this into a road trip. Yes, we were sent out of the community, but maybe we'll take advantage of the fact that we're out here and add some additional kind of fun things to the return, just to help with kind of that mental shift of, this was bad, this wasn't what we anticipated, but maybe we can find some helpful things in there. And then otherwise, some of it is also just working on that big picture worldview. Am I safe? Is the world falling apart? Is it going to continue to exist? Like those much bigger questions. Right. And really, how do you cope with those when they feel overwhelming?
Not to mention the effect of a hurricane, for example, on children. They don't know what a hurricane is until it suddenly hits, and it can be extremely terrifying for kids.
Oh, there's no question. And I mean, yes, they've maybe seen them on the Weather Network or heard ideas about it. But all of this for kids can feel very overwhelming, and they take their cues from how the adults around them are reacting. And so never minimize their reactions. It's okay to go, yeah, I'm scared too. I'm worried. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't like it when the lights go out, or I'm worried that there might be flooding. So it's okay to validate their fears and your fears, but at the same time, reminding them we're safe, we're okay, the important things are taken care of. And then one of the best things you can do for yourself and your children, really limit the amount of social media and news that you're taking in, because that can be really activating and can increase a lot of those symptoms. So set up a buddy system. If there's something you need to know, they'll call you or text you, or check into a reputable news source like once a day or twice a day. But really be careful about the random scrolling, because you may be exposed to images or rumors or things that you're just not prepared to take in that moment. So taking care of your mental health that way.
So important. I wonder whether you think governments are recognize what you're talking about here. I mean, there's a lot of mitigation work and adaptation that municipalities and governments are doing as we get more and more events like this. But is there a recognition there of the damaging mental health effects that this all creates?
Well, I think actually this is one of the things that nationally we are doing as a psychology community. We have some wonderful researchers who are producing data about the impact of this on our citizens and presenting it to government, and kind of looking at what are those needs and being prepared that this isn't going to go away, and these needs are going to continue to increase as the frequency of environmental storms and disasters continues towards us. Even things like just high heat, a heat dome, a heat wave, that can also trigger people and, again, affects all the same other things. So being mindful that this is an area that we are going to need to address proactively from a mental health perspective, and not just during that emergency crisis time. Right.
So your work is a big part of what you're doing is simply just raising awareness, and just validating, the anguish that a lot of people are feeling around this issue.
Absolutely. And like I say, for some people, it's the immediate fear of personal safety. But for many, especially a lot of our young people, it's that much bigger existential, what's going to happen to my future and my planet? The good news is if we can take some of the anxiety and channel it into action, because remember, I started saying that we feel helpless. So one of the ways to reduce feelings of helplessness is to take control. Find things you can do, whether it's around your own personal property, whether it's a bigger thing, looking at get kids involved in their recycling and planting gardens, and like all the environmentally friendly things that we can at least do on a small scale to try to feel a sense of control and a sense of contribution.
I don't want to get too dark or negative about it, but when you do what you do as a professional, the fact is what you have to say to, and you have to admit, I guess, and acknowledge is that these events are becoming more common. They are becoming more intense and unpredictable. And we should be scared.
Yeah, but also it's not completely out of control. There are small things we can do that will continue to make a difference. So acknowledge the fear, but also empower.
Okay, thank you so much for your thoughts on this.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Janine Hubbard is a registered psychologist.